So it's going to be,
A snail's pace.
can you hear me here? So it's going to be um, landslide and blind spot. And then the other one was Russia collusion. Okay. Yeah, I better write it down. I'll write it down. Barataroma. Baraton. Maria Bataroma. Bataroma. Papadopoulos. 1 minute. Oh, I forgot to take the. Regulated. He said, that bothers me. He says,
Warning, the following program has been rated T for truth.
You can't handle the truth!
Oh, we think you can. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report with your host, truth warrior and mythbuster Kathleen Wells. The place where we distinguish fact from fiction, where data is used to drive points home, and where Kathleen takes the position that Democrats and black politicians have destroyed black America. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report. Now, your host, Kathleen Wells.
welcome, truth warriors and mythbusters. It's me, Kathleen Wells, your friendly truth warrior. I'm about the truth. That's right. And let me ask you out there, did you hear this morning Maria Bartiromo's interview with Papadopoulos? That interview was insightful. It was important. It was it was instructive. I think that we should have, everyone should go back and listen to that interview. Because this is something, you kept hearing that from like Sarah Carter and Holloman on Fox News, that this uh, whole episode, this narrative of Russian collusion is the whole hoax, the witch hunt, this whole fraud is bigger than what we know or what we anticipate. And in that interview with Papadopoulos, Maria Bartiromo, Papadopoulos informed her that he testified in front of Congress under oath. And he explains how all the machinations on all the variables or facts that took place that got him involved with this entire fiasco for the last, it turned his life upside down for the last 2 years and made him have to plead guilty to a felony and serve 11 days in prison. I guess it's prison, even though it's 11 days. But he had to plead guilty to perjury because he misidentified or misrepresented the month in which he had met with Downer, the guy from Australia. He said he met him in uh, March as opposed to April. And so that was his lie. That's not like a material element, right? That's like a minor faux pas or something. That's not like something that you should go to prison for and have a felony for. But, you said, maybe he misspoke. Maybe he didn't remember. But anyway, the point of the matter is that was a very, very revealing interview that Maria had with Papadopoulos this morning, because remember, the liberals or the Democrats are the deep state, say that the meeting with Papadopoulos is what triggered the entire counterintelligence investigation. It was the thing that triggered the granting of the FISA warrants, right? Remember? And one of the things that Papadopoulos mentions is that Mueller uh, Mueller mischaracterized, how do you say it? Misfewed. How do I say his name? Masood. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Mifsud. Masood. He mischaracterized him as a Russian intelligence asset or agent, when in actuality, this Masood has been missing, actually. And Italian newspapers are actually covering what's going on. Il Forgino, I think it's pronounced Il Forneo. ILFIGONO, I think. Yeah, they're covering this. This Masood he's been missing for 2 months. And Papadopoulos explains that this Masood is actually with Western intelligence, not Russian intelligence, and that Papadopoulos was actually entrapped. He was set up. And in fact, it was like many intelligence assets or players in the game had reached out to Papadopoulos. People from Australia and the UK and also Italy. So, this is like espionage. And in fact, this is like what you gather from that interview is that, listen, there were folks involved with making sure that Hillary's political opponent was somehow smeared or, painted in a bad light. Or, they wanted to get some dirt on whoever was going to be Hillary's political opponent. Because in fact, Papadopoulos was working with the Ben Carson campaign initially. So, we don't know why they reached out to Papadopoulos. Did they reach out to him because he was working with a competitor, an opponent of Hillary? Or did they reach out to him because they knew that he had made inquiries about working with the Trump campaign, but that hadn't come to fruition? They started reaching out to Papadopoulos, trying to make contact, trying to make inroads, and interacting with him before he even started working for the Trump campaign, when he was with the Ben Carson campaign. So this is very interesting. And I think it's fascinating. And I cannot wait. We cannot wait. Us Trump supporters cannot wait until Trump declassifies these documents. I think the American people are going to, us Trump supporters are pissed already, because we knew it was a hoax and a witch hunt and all that negative stuff, that it was a fraud, it was a con. And it was just covering up for Hillary. And this is the thing that I came away with after listening to that interview. It's like Hillary, as Secretary of State, went all around the world setting up, making arrangements to assure that she would be the next president. Putting things in place to make sure she was the next president. This is what she did as Secretary of State. And no wonder her emails are missing. And no wonder she had a server at home, a private server at home. And no wonder she smashed devices. Because this woman had this long-term goal, and we know that they did shenanigans, because they did shenanigans, the Hillary camp and the DNC with Sanders. So they were going to do shenanigans with anyone, with any opponent that she had, not just Trump, whoever got the nomination. They were putting things in place to make sure they had dirt on her opponent, that they could smear her opponent. You got to take a look at that interview with Papadopoulos. I think it reveals things that we didn't know, like our allies, the UK, Australians, our allies were working on behalf of Hillary. I mean, I don't know if official folks in the government are just, individuals, but they were working to make certain that whoever is the political opponent for Hillary, had dirt on them. This is fascinating. Anyway, the other thing that I wanted to talk about, did I say, you know what, when I listened to, sometimes I listen to my shows to see how I'm doing and so on and so forth. And I said that I noticed that I say, so much. I hate, and I hate saying that. Have I been saying, have I said it yet? I've been saying it, Jeff. My engineer is saying, I've said, I don't think I've said it, Jeff, have I? I just said it once. So I did like 20 minutes without saying, Anyway, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, I titled this show, CNN and MSNBC have no credibility whatsoever. I think we forget how they have misled their listeners, like forever, but actually, during the 2016 campaign. Now, as I mentioned last week, I think I mentioned last week that Brian Lamb said when, Brian Lamb, who founded C-SPAN, he said when he came to DC that the media had lied about Vietnam. So this was in the 70s. So we know that the media has been playing fast and, what is the expression? Footloose and fancy free or something like that for a long time, for decades. But we know for certain we're living this. We're living the lies of the mainstream media, specifically CNN and MSNBC. And I want to play one of the audios, Jeff, because I want to remind listeners of the lies. So let's start first with this audio from, and that says landslide. We'll start with that one.
A lot of people have no idea that Trump is headed for a historic defeat. That's why I think the larger the defeat, in a sense, the healthier it will be for the Republican Party, at least if it doesn't bring Paul Ryan's speakership down with him and there's a kind of healthy divided government, because it might be a wake-up call to those Republicans who have existed in this little thought bubble of their own that this isn't a winning form of politics.
Then this election, not only does Florida fall to Hillary Clinton, but this election overall could, we could be talking landslide. And so
Hillary Clinton today is more likely to win in a landslide that would not only have an impact on this race, but realign the country politically to some extent than Donald Trump is to win narrowly or at all.
Is. I mean, let's say it is a 4-point margin. That would translate to an electoral majority and probably electoral landslide for Hillary Clinton.
Margin of error, I mean margin of error. This could be tight, or it could be a landslide for Hillary.
Okay, so everybody is saying, most analysts are saying that Hillary Clinton's going to win in a landslide and that Ohio won't much matter this time around. Do you agree?
If this collapse of support among women that you talked about in Senate, if that spreads among women voters all across the country, he's going to lose by a landslide, and they could lose the Senate and the House.
GOP officials now fear that if Donald Trump loses by a landslide, he could take down their congressional majorities with him.
Not only am I concerned about the presidential race, I'm concerned about what the impact on down ballot races, including
being overly cautious, just because I'm trying to be a little risk averse in my predictions, but I think that she's going to have a very good night.
So the technical term for that, if she's anywhere
near your prediction would be blowout?
Landslide.
I give a landslide. I don't know.
call
I
that a
would say
landslide.
I would say a landslide. I would say a landslide.
My bad.
That's a Sheila acting, actually. That's a Sheila.
Okay, sometimes the American people need. I mean, Trump supporters are just very. What do I want to say? They do their homework. They know what's going on. But I just want to remind folks. I just want a reminder how we were told before the election that Hillary, MSNBC and CNN told us that definitively Hillary would win by a landslide. It was going to be a blowout. Okay. So now I just want us to remember that because sometimes, we kind of forget. We go on with things. We move on to the next issue. We forget what we were told by the media. MSNBC and CNN said a landslide. You heard that compilation. Now let's hear the audio after Trump won the election. This is Scarborough, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is Scarborough, MSNBC.
Until 9 o'clock that they had a lock on this, that they were going to win. The fault of that actually lies with the media. And there's some self-reflection. Jim Rutenberg today writes a fascinating article where the New York Times editor and others basically come to terms with the fact that they stopped being journalists over the past month and began being cheerleaders and began being people who had a conclusion that they reached and then searched for facts to show that Hillary Clinton was a 92, 93, 99.999% chance winner of winning this campaign. Well,
how else would you explain it except that they were searching for those facts? I'm wondering, was it a big aberration or?
No, it wasn't a big aberration. It was there the entire time. They didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to see it. And I will just say it. When people like Mark, us, Nate Silver, even, and I want you guys to think about this, at the Times and the Washington Post, people I know and love, I want you to think about this, that when anybody even made the suggestion that Donald Trump could be elected president of the United States, it was their journalistic standards that were questioned. When Mark Halperin suggested that there was a pathway forward for Donald Trump as president of the United States, I won't name names because so many of them are my friends, and there's no need to name names now. The time for recrimination is over. But reporters at some of the best newspapers in the world, anchors at some of the best news networks in the world, mocked and ridiculed Mark Halperin. I want you to think about this. They mocked and ridiculed him not for saying that Donald Trump was going to be elected president of the United States. They mocked and ridiculed him for saying there was a slight chance that Donald Trump could be elected president of the United States. Now, if your job, you thought, and Jim Rutenberg did say back in August, the New York Times job and journalist's job now was to defeat Donald Trump. The editor of the New York Times confirmed that. If you really think that's your job, think about this. Think about what you did. You were trying to help Hillary Clinton defeat Donald Trump because you thought Donald Trump would be such a malignant cancer on our constitutional republic. But you did two things. The first thing you did is you put liberals and Democrats and independents who thought like you put them in a position where they were complacent, where they really did believe, not only in New York, but across America and the world, that Hillary Clinton had a 98.999% chance of being elected president of the United States. So if that's the case, why do I have to go to the phone banks? Why do I have to knock on doors? Why do I have to go out of my house at 7 o'clock at night and get in my car and drive 2 blocks over and talk to a friend who's wavering and sit down and explain to them why Hillary Clinton would be best for I don't need to do that.
Why do I have to vote?
You've told me she's got a 98.99% chance of winning.
I want to cut that off. Anyway, what I was going to say is that that was Joe Scarborough and Mika, the morning show on MSNBC. So 2.5 years ago, we were told that Hillary, the media, MSNBC, CNN, said Hillary had a 92% chance of winning, definitely. Okay. So, okay, we know that. Okay. Now we're going to go into the Russia collusion business. You see, that was sufficient. When they told us Hillary had a 92% chance or more of winning, definitive, a landslide, and she didn't win, that's sufficient to say, well, we can't trust these folks. We're not, they're not credible. Where are they, So anyway, now let's go into the Russia. Let's fast forward 2.5 years later, right? The same media tells us what? Here we go. Can we get Russia collusion?
Breaking news. Oh, my God. Breaking news. ABC News' Brian Ross is reporting Michael Flynn promised full cooperation to the Mueller team and is prepared to testify that as a candidate, Donald Trump directed him to make contact with the Russians. Yeah!
I'm confident now, even more so than I have been throughout the last year, that this nightmare presidency of Donald John Trump will end prematurely and end soon.
If we discover that Donald Trump or his advocates played a role in helping to devise strategy, if they're the ones who came up with Crooked Hillary, I think that is something that would put the question squarely on the table whether or not he should be impeached.
It supposedly happened in 2013, the year Trump hosted the Miss Universe pageant in Moscow.
The bombshell burst Tuesday evening when CNN reported the president-elect and President Obama were briefed on the matter last week. The report included unsubstantiated claims that Russian intelligence compiled a dossier on Mr. Trump during visits to Moscow.
He dismissed outright the very idea that he would take part in the sordid acts described in the report.
He denied everything. He called it all fake news.
The 35-page dossier on the so-called Russian connection to Trump, with some very salacious allegations, including unsubstantiated claims about Trump in a Moscow hotel room, was not completed until just before the election, and then provided to journalists, the Clinton campaign, and the FBI.
It claims that Donald Trump once visited Russia, stayed in the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow, and then hired prostitutes to perform a golden shower, and that Russia might have the whole thing on tape.
There were surveillance cameras in this room because the building is wired, and that the FSB has this because they automatically have cameras in the room, and they caught this happening.
Donald Trump engaged in perverted acts with prostitutes.
Trump immediately denied the report.
I'd like to ask you about your big Russian pee-pee party.
No, I am not talking about the pee-pee, because it didn't happen.
From there, the president-elect lit into the news media again. He condemned BuzzFeed.
It's a failing pile of garbage. Writing it, I think they're going to suffer the consequences.
And he accused CNN of being fake news and brushed off persistent attempts by its correspondent to ask a question. Later, CNN's parent company, Time Warner, defended its reporting, and BuzzFeed said it published what it called a newsworthy document.
It claims Trump set out to defile the suite because President Obama and the first family had once stayed there, and Trump, quote, hated the Obamas.
Everything that I had written in the months prior to that dossier coming out was almost identical to what the CIA had written, because we're intelligence officers. This is what we do.
That corroboration, based on intercepted communications, has given U.S. intelligence and law enforcement, quote, greater confidence in the credibility of some aspects of the dossier.
The most salacious and unverified claims are that the Russian Secret Service, or FSB, secretly filmed Mr. Trump with prostitutes in this Moscow hotel room 3 years ago.
Allegations the special counsel continues to investigate, George.
And so far, it is us as American citizens, it is us in the press who are connecting the dots on this story, who are figuring this out.
Did the Trump campaign, did the candidate at the heart of it conspire with Russia to subvert American democracy? And does Russia have some kind of leverage over Donald Trump?
This BuzzFeed News report is true, then we are likely on our way to possible
impeachment proceedings.
If this story is true, we must begin impeachment proceedings.
This is suborning perjury. I think there's no question it's an impeachable offense.
And at that point, we are in high crimes and misdemeanor, and we are in impeachment territory.
Right.
This president needs to be impeached.
Impeachment is the remedy. I mean, the president can't.
It's the only remedy. The spirit of what Trump did is clearly treasonous.
This is moving into perjury, false statements, and even into potentially treason.
There's outright treason. I mean, there is no question.
I think he's feeling the noose around his neck.
The noose is tightening.
And I think they're shocked that the noose is tightening.
He feels the noose is tightening.
The noose is tightening.
The sound of hoofbeats of all those investigations catching up with Donald Trump must be loud in his ears.
He may be the first president in quite some time to face the real prospect of jail time.
People might go to jail
You're exactly right.
for the rest of their lives.
I think they're all going to jail.
Well, I think they're all going to end up together in prison, and maybe that's a good thing.
God.
He has no idea that he's going down.
You're confident that at least some Trump associates will wind up in jail?
If I was betting, I would say yes.
Donald Trump has been a Russian intelligence asset since 1987.
We are at war with Russia. The nation and all of our freedoms hang by a thread, and the military apparatus of this country is about to be handed over to scum who are beholden to scum, Russian scum.
Okay, you guys heard that, right? I mean, we need a reminder because we tend to just go off to the next issue. But I think we need a reminder what the media has done, how the media has no credibility, what MSNBC and CNN specifically. But for Fox, we Trump supporters wouldn't know anything that we know now. If we only had MSNBC and CNN to rely on, we'd be confused. We might believe Hillary would have won. I mean, it's just, to me, that listening to those two compilations is sufficient to say you can't trust MSNBC or CNN. They're not credible. And that's the title of today's show. And CNN and MSNBC are not credible whatsoever. I just proved it. There's the music. We'll be right back. I'll open up the phone lines. I'd like to hear what you think. Also, I want to talk about this letter that Emmett Flood, who is the White House counsel, sent to Attorney General Barr. So there's the music. This is the Next Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and the title of the show is CNN, MSNBC have no credibility whatsoever. We'll be right back. How come we played that? Why did we play that? Why did we play that? Why did you play that? Why did you play that? Masood as a Russian agent. Masood. Regulated. Oh, I hate that. Regulated. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we heard a compilation of how Hillary would definitively, 98% in a landslide, beat Trump. Right. And we heard also what? That there was Russian collusion, that the noose was tightening around Trump's neck. Right? This is from MSNBC and CNN. Someone wrote, oh, I want to say, go to my, you can go to the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel and see me live in the studio. Like, share, and, subscribe to the station. That's a good thing. I'd appreciate it. I want to get many subscribers. Yes. Someone said on my Facebook page that Fox is just as bad as CNN and NBC. Now, how in the heck can you say something like that? But for Fox, with Carter and John Holliman, who writes for The Hill, and Maria Bartiromo, we would not know what we know, that we knew there was no collusion. I knew Trump would win way back at the beginning when he came down the elevator, because I don't listen to CNN and MSNBC, right? I knew that then because I listened to the Bill Still Report, and I listened to Dick Morris. I listened to, who else? Lionel Nation. I don't listen to MSNBC or CNN. I listen to people who have experience with the deep state. Many of them have YouTube channels, and they knew Trump would win. Yet MSNBC and CNN did not. Okay, and so we know that there's no collusion and no obstruction. And in fact, Mueller didn't fulfill his duties properly, because as a special prosecutor, the special prosecutor's office is not their duty, it's not their job to exonerate anyone, because given the Constitution, we are innocent until proven guilty. The Constitution applies to President Trump. Yes. So the special prosecutor is not charged with exonerating anyone. They were only charged with indicting a crime. And they didn't indict Trump for collusion/conspiracy or for obstruction of justice. So there's no collusion, no obstruction of justice, and Obama spied on the Trump campaign. That's the bottom line, right? That's the bottom line. I want to recommend to my listeners that they read, you can download this. It's on Fox, actually, website. Emmett Flood's letter to Attorney General Barr. It's a beautiful letter. It states how Mueller abrogated his duty and sort of like wrote a term paper, particularly his part 2. He blew it, basically. He's a stooge for the deep state too. Mueller is. Anyway, why don't I take a phone call now from Jim in Hawthorne. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
Thanks for having me. Hi. I was just thinking the Democratic Party has changed so radically. When you look at people they used to have, like Adlai Stevenson, who had integrity and was a lawyer and understood the Constitution, unlike the Clintons. And you look at Estes Kefauver, who was against concentrated power, and Barbara Jordan, Eugene McCarthy, who warned against globalism, heard him speak twice, and John and Robert Kennedy and others, Hubert Humphrey. It's just amazing. They supported a good number of them supported, the Second Amendment, and they were for immigration, but they never would have supported a lot of these stupid policies that have come to pass. And just this nonsense, just so much of the nonsense, John Kennedy cut taxes 30% across the board and balanced his budgets, and was in favor of the gold standard, So it's people don't, and Robert Kennedy was against the idea of a permanent welfare state. He said to Merv Griffin, the government can't do everything. We need to bring the private sector in and give them tax incentives. And William F. Buckley and Richard Nixon took the same approach. So it's sad that and one more thing, even George McGovern, when he later, owned a bed and breakfast inn, and it failed, he became a business owner. He was asked, "What are your thoughts?" He goes, "If I had to do it again, a lot of my votes would have been different," because he said, "You should never kill the incentive of the small and medium business person." Mm-hmm. And I can't blame people for going and getting a health care at a lower rate out of the state line. So what I'm saying to you, Kathleen, is that the Democrats of a generation ago, there are many of them that never, ever, ever would have supported what this current party is doing. These people, I doubt Alexandria Cortez has a sense of history and even knows who half those people were.
Right.
Or Mike Mansfield. There was a really a guy who was a straight shooter. He never would have supported this garbage. But because they died off and they resigned, they retired. The party got hijacked by the Clinton crowd and others who've created a permanent history of it, as if everything started with them. History started with them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think it's important that we know history. And I think it's important that we remember just the recent history, just 2 years ago, what happened with the media. So thanks, Jim, for calling in. I want to take a call now from, also what I wanted to say is that I just became aware of the fact that Michael Crichton has debunked. He said the climate change narrative or theory is a fraud. I'm looking into that. I'm going to start talking about the climate change fraud again. Now, I'm going to start talking about that. Okay, I'll take Ron and Covina. Hi, Ron. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
Hi. First of all, the Naked Truth Report is on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page. Yeah, it's a Naked Truth Report.
It was Naked Truth Report.
Okay. And then and it's the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, Naked Truth Report YouTube channel.
Okay.
You can see me now. Hi.
But as far as the news media and their lack of credibility, it's when I was growing up, I grew up with Walter Cronkite and those guys, and back in those days. CBS, NBC, et cetera, did not get a profit from the news. News was not profit like it is today. And I think that's one of the biggest problems for the news departments now, is that they use profit making as an excuse to do just about anything and everything. It's just all about getting eyeballs on the set rather than having any integrity or credibility. And back in the day of Walter Cronkite, those guys, all they had really, because they're not making that, the amount of money that they're making today, is really all they had was their credibility and their integrity. But the thing is that if you heard something from Walter Cronkite or one of the other guys, Mudd or somebody like that, you could take it to the bank. You knew it was the truth. You could have confidence, absolute, solid confidence. As a matter of fact, I think it was President Johnson that said that when Cronkite went against the Vietnam War, and he says, "If I've lost Cronkite, I've lost the country." And today, there's nobody like that. And it's just, and again, I think that it's just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And I think that the news departments would do well to go back to a nonprofit scenario.
Well, Brian Lamb said on he's the founder of C-SPAN. He said that when he came to DC, they were lying about Vietnam, the media.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what he said. I heard him say it in an interview. So, yeah, I mean, there have been deceptions, but I mean, we're at the point now that it's just so obvious when you hear that compilation. On MSNBC and CNN, you don't even get like a different opinion. Opposing views. It's just like they're all in unison saying the same thing.
May as well be watching The View.
Right. And actually, what is the woman's name? The Joe Behar was it? They were like, "Oh my God, we have breaking news." That's like this is entertainment. This is not news. So thanks, Ron, for calling in. Check me out. Subscribe to my station, the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Naked Truth Report YouTube channel. Hi, David. Welcome to the. Hi, Daryl. Welcome to the Naked Truth Report.
How you doing? I just wanted to comment on the hysteria in the media and how it's affecting us in the communities of South Central and places of that nature, and lower stratus of society. And what I was telling you about a couple of months ago, I said it's more psychological than anything. If people clinch to they voting for the Democratic Party, because they're the party of manipulation, and they try to manipulate any insecure collective to bring them into the fold. And if you don't believe that they believe, even in communities of South Central, the whole narrative is about hate Trump. But
right,
even it's just it's just so pathetic that a few years ago everybody was praising Trump. If you was a hustler or somebody on the street, you inspired to be that person that rolls up and balling and all that. But it's so cold now that the media can point to somebody and that you never met, you never had any interaction with personally, but you can grow to hate and despise that person. And that's just too much control that they have over psychological, particular people that ain't educated, people that don't have the know-it-all.
But even educated Black folks in Baldwin Hills and Windsor Hills and View Park and Leimert Park, they love Obama. They just named the street Rodeo. They changed Rodeo Road to Obama.
You know what I contribute that to?
What?
Because they part of what they consider the bourgeois society. They want to be looked upon as, we a step, a cut above for people that's in the lower, South Central and all that. So, it's that, Kenneth Hearn, his daughter, the Maxine Waters crowd. I want to be part of that collective, so therefore, I'm uppity, I'm on a, it's all democratic, liberal ideology.
Yeah,
they Clinton to. They part of that collective. It's regardless whether Obama's policies wasn't worth a struck match.
But they're supposed to be the educated group. I go to the walk path.
They educated, but they're not necessarily educated. They indoctrinated. They're
indoctrinated.
If you was educated, you'd be like you or Miss Candace, Owen.
Right.
What's her name?
Candace. That's it. Right. Candace. Because I was just in the walk path up there on.
Y'all are educated because y'all have the mind to recognize small timber from big bucks.
Right.
Y'all ain't usually to be deceived. Now, a person that's been through all the academia and been brainwashed and indoctrinated with that liberal ideology, that's not education. That's just they manipulate it.
It's propaganda.
It's propaganda, and that's what they clinch into.
Right.
All right, sister, that's all I want. I love you. You, Diamond and Silk, and all these other queens.
Thank you.
All you queens out there that's educating us brothers and bringing us out of the Democratic plantation. I love you.
I love you too, Daryl. Thank you for calling in. Now I'll take a call from Dave and Whittier. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Kathleen. I'd like to give two examples, one personal and one that I read about that was pretty significant, of a blatant liberal Democrat impartiality in the news.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, back in 1996 or 8, the guy came out with Bloodsport. I forget his name. He was one of the water guys. Watergate people who investigated. It's one or the other, but he wrote a...
Ken Starr?
No, it was one of the two who uncovered the Watergate investigation of Nixon. And he wrote a book called Bloodsport. It was about Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton shenanigans.
Uh-huh.
And that
was it Bob Woodward? You mean Woodward and
yes.
Woodward and Bernstein? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what happened was after that segment came, and they interviewed Hillary and Bill Clinton on it.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Woodward did on the book, and they actually interviewed them. And so I purchased that segment where they Bob Woodward interviewed Clinton, and it was about blood, the things in the book. And it took me 3 or 4 months. The tape wasn't coming in the mail. So I called ABC News, and they said Clinton's lawyers actually blocked it from being released. Can you believe that? And here's another blatant example. Gary, what's his name, wrote the book called Unlimited Access. And he says in the book that before that, after the book came out, Bill Clinton literally told, it was ABC or CBS or NBC, they were going to have the author, he was an FBI agent in the White House who wrote the book, and he said he was going to be on one of these channels, and Bill Clinton called that station as President of the United States and said, if you have him on, you're not having access to the White House.
Well, but what was Bob what we're revealing in the book Bloodsport? What was he revealing?
You know what? If you go back and Google that, you can find out. But it was a lot of the shenanigans that Clinton and Hillary were pulling as president and of the United States at that time. Before it was shortly before the Lewinsky scandal broke. There was a bunch of shenanigans going on. And by the way, you know, I read in the Star transcripts. You folks, you ought to get the 10-star transcripts on that investigation, and it's unbelievable, the stuff. And then actually there were people in the White House, administrators inside, who literally they knew what was going on with Lewinsky at the time, and they literally did everything they could to keep it from getting out in the media. And the stuff he did, beyond belief.
Right.
I can't repeat it on the news right now. People, literally, if you go to the Neon, go to this website or go to this blog. Okay, go. It's called the Neon Green Room .blogspot.com, and it will show you just the gross things that he did in the White House with her that people just don't know about.
Well, you know, thanks for calling in, Dave. Yeah, I believe it because, I mean, I think it's very, very, for me, it was very, you know, I've been following this from day one. I've been following politics because, you know, I have a political radio show and I follow politics. So when Trump came down the elevator and announced that he was building a wall, I said, well, I'm supporting him because LA is just inundated, overrun by illegal aliens. Okay. So, and I want them out of the city because I want American workers to work, American citizens to work. We're overrun. Why do you have so many illegal aliens in your country is the question. But after this morning, you guys got to watch this interview with Papadopoulos. Please, because you will see what I mean, maybe you don't have to because things are going to be revealed soon. You know, the IG Inspector General report, Horowitz report, is coming out in a few weeks, if not next month. Yeah, Trump will be declassifying documents, the FISA documents, and also Papadopoulos testimony, congressional testimony is going to be declassified. All of this is coming forward. But and in fact, Papadopoulos wrote a book called, I forgot, something Target is, the word Target is in it. But that interview was very revealing for me with Maria Bartiromo and Papadopoulos because you see the Australians were involved, or Australian citizens, I should say. I don't know if the official government, but Australian citizens were involved, an Australian citizen, a UK citizen, many, more than one. And the former Italian prime minister was involved, you see. There were all these tentacles out, you know, contacting Papadopoulos in late 2015, even before the FISA applications were granted in 2016. You see, so in 2015, Papadopoulos wasn't even with the Trump campaign. And yet the Democrats told us that Papadopoulos was the predicate, was the reason, was the probable cause to commence the counterintelligence surveillance of the Trump campaign. He wasn't even with the campaign. So what preempted them? What prompted them, rather? What prompted these intelligence assets, figures from the UK, the US, Italy, and Australia to contact Papadopoulos. He said they first contacted him through LinkedIn. Can you imagine? Why? Why? He was with the Ben Carson campaign. So why are they looking into Papadopoulos? So, no upstream. So, and then he gets with the Trump campaign. And this is when how do I pronounce that? Masood. Yeah. Masood. This is when Masood, the F is silent. This is when Masood was trying to, when he indicated to Papadopoulos that they had, the Russians had emails on Hillary that were disparaging. The Russians had emails. Masood said the Russians had emails, and he said this to Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos he knew that this was illegal for him to go back and give this information to the Trump campaign, which he did not. He didn't do anything about it. And in fact, he indicated that he wasn't convinced that Masood had any connections with the Russians, you see? And come to find out, Masood is suspected, and it may be, in fact, Papadopoulos testified before Congress that it is believed that Masood is with Western intelligence. And in fact, it is assumed that he's living in Italy and has been in like incognito or can't be found for the last 2 years in Italy. And he introduced Papadopoulos to the former prime minister of Italy. So this is why I'm thinking, so this man has nothing to do with Russia, Masood. So why was there this idea of Russia being involved? Why? Okay. In fact, this guy, this Masood is, so in other words, this was entrapment. They did, and Papadopoulos says in this interview with Maria that they did the same thing to General Flynn. You see, they sent out these assets or these individuals trying to dig up dirt on them. And this is what predicated this whole counterintelligence investigation into Trump. It would have been if Ben Carson would have won, they would have done the same thing to Ben Carson, to bring up dirt on Ben Carson. Oh, this is going to be so interesting when it all gets unraveled. And Trump said, I heard recently Trump said, he's going to make sure, and Barr, and this is something that you can read in Emmett Fudd's letter to Barr, make sure that we find out what happened and how and who's culpable and hold them accountable, right? That must be done. Anyway, there's my music. This is the Naked Truth Report. Thank you for joining me this Sunday. Next week, what are we going to discuss? I don't know yet. You know what? I'm trying to get this new ICE agent. He's been named as the new ICE director. I think his name is Mark Morgan. Let's hope I can get him. Okay, so I'll see you next week. This is the Naked Truth Report. I'm your host, Kathleen Wells, and thanks for listening. Bye.